Stick around and I'll guide you through every step of creating this cheeky, naughty gnome in the home design. Well folks, let's get started. I'll begin by showing you how to create the arms for our naughty gnome in the home design. First, hoop up Tearaway stabilizer in the embroidery hoop, and then stitch the plates and lines for the arms. Next, place fabric A right side up over the place and line and stitch it down. Making sure to trim only the bottom horizontal edge. Using the trim edge of fabric A as a guide, place fabric B wrong side up, overlapping the place and line by 1/4 inch, with the excess fabric towards the top of the hoop, and then stitch this down. After that, fold fabric B over while holding it taut, and stitch down again. Trimming the bottom horizontal edge only. For the gloves, you repeat the flip and fold process using fabric C, but do not trim. Once that's complete, embroider the stippling design. Now, place fabric D wrong side up on top of the hoop and stitch it down using a triple stitch. Are you loving this Naughty Gnome project? Make sure to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more creative inspiration. Once you've finished stitching, carefully remove the piece from the hoop and cut out the arms, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance around each limb and 1/2 inch at the opening, ensuring you clip the curves for a smooth finish. After cutting, turn the arms right side out. A pink fang works well for pushing out the ends, or a similar pointy tool to gently push out the end. And then iron them flat. Lightly stuff the arms And if you'd like to add some flexibility, use chalk or a pencil to mark the midpoint of the arms or legs. Then stitch along the mark line to create an elbow joint, ensuring you leave a 1/8 3mm seam allowance on each side of the stitch line. Once complete, set the arms aside for later and follow the same steps for your legs. Let's sew the beard next, folks. Would you like to dive into another sew-along we are currently running? Our sew-along facial group is crafting the festive Christmas door runner. Check out the link below and come be part of the fun. For our project, we chose fluffy fabric for the beard, but you could also use batting. The option's yours. First, stitch the place and line for the beard to serve as a guide. Then take fabric A, the beard fabric, and fabric B, the backing fabric, and place them right sides together over the placement lines in the hoop. Secure in place, then stitch down along the placement line to attach both fabrics. After stitching, carefully remove the hoop from your machine and peel away any excess tearaway stabilizer from the beard area without disturbing the stitch line. Cut out the beard, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the edges and about 1/2 inch at the opening for easier turning. Next, clip the curves and the pointed tip of the beard to reduce bulk, which helps achieve a smoother finish. To turn the beard right side out, use the Sweet Pea That Pink Thing or a similar pointy tool to gently push out the end. Finally, press the beard flat to remove any creases and ensure a neat appearance. Your beard is now ready to be attached to your gnome. Why don't we sew the hat next? Stitch the place and line for the batting, then place batting 1 on top of the hoop, ensuring it covers that line, and stitch it down. After stitching, carefully remove the hoop from your machine and trim the batting to about 1 to 2 mm from the stitching, just enough to keep it neat. Now let's move on to section A of the hat. Stitch the place and line, then lay fabric A on top of the hoop, making sure it covers that batting line. Stitch it down and trim only the bottom diagonal edge. Using this trimmed edge as a guide, grab fabric B, place it wrong side up, and overlap the placement line by about 1/4 inch, with any excess fabric pointing towards the top left of the hoop. Stitch it down securely. Next, fold that fabric over, hold it taut, and stitch it down again. Just like before, trim the bottom diagonal edge. Now, let's repeat this fun flip and fold process for section C to E, with fabric C to E. Just remember, don't trim fabric E, it will stay as is. Once that's all set, it's time to add some flair. Embroider the quilting design first, then follow up with the holly leaves and the cheerful holly berries. After that, stitch the outline of the hat. And when you're done, cut it out, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the edges. And voila! Hold that lovely hat aside for now, we'll be using it very soon. We've got a whole collection of exciting designs just like this one waiting for you at swpea.com. Don't miss out. Now, let's sew the gnome's body. You'll also need the arms, legs, beard, and hat we prepared earlier. First things first, stitch the place and line for the batting. Once that's done, place batting 1 on top, covering the place and line, and stitch it down. After stitching carefully, remove the hoop from your machine and trim the batting to about 1 to 2 millimeters from the stitching. This keeps everything neat and tidy. Next up, take fabric A and lay it right side up over the hoop, making sure it completely covers the place and line, and stitch it down. But don't trim just yet. Now it's time to add some quilting. Once the quilting is complete, stitch the place and lines for the beard. Now we're ready to add the beard. Place it right side up on top of the hoop, ensuring it crosses the place and line by a 1/4 inch. Use the center notch as a guide to help you position it perfectly and tape it in place. If needed, slow down the machine and raise the embroidery foot for better control as you stitch it down. Now, let's move on to the hat. Stitch the place and lines for the hat. Then place it right side up on top of the hoop, aligning the border stitching of the hat with the place and line. Make sure the center notches line up too, and tape it down securely. Again, feel free to slow down the machine and raise the embroidery foot if needed. After that, trim along the bottom of the hat. Optionally, if you've used a fluffy fabric for the beard, consider placing a wash-away stabilizer on top to ensure your embroidery shows clearly on the fabric. Once that's set, embroider the hat brim. Next, let's stitch the place and line for the nose. Then place fabric B right side up on top of the hoop, covering the place and line, and stitch it down and then trim. Now it's time to add some flair. Embroider the satin stitch and the shine for the nose. Once that's done, tape the beard out of the way to keep it from interfering with the next steps. Let's move on to the arms and legs now. Stitch the place and lines for them. For the left arm, place it wrong side up on top of the place and line on the left side of the body, ensuring the raw edge points outwards. Make sure the arm stays within the body outline and doesn't extend over the top of the bottom outside border line. Tape it in place on the raw end and stitch down. After stitching the left arm, tape it out of the way. Now repeat the process for the left leg. Then place it on the left place and line at the bottom of the body and stitch down. Next, do the same for the right leg. Place it on the right place and line at the bottom of the body and stitching it down. Finally, repeat the process for the right arm. Place it on the right place and line at the side of the body and stitching it down. Important note, there'll be one last step after this, but do not stitch it. Instead, just remove the hoop from the machine and skip this step. It's there to ensure the machine doesn't move to the center of the hoop and get caught on the bulk when finished. Once you've removed the hoop from your machine, carefully cut out the gnome body, leave your 1/4 inch seam allowance all around. To keep the arms and legs neat, Take them out of the way, ensuring they lay flat against the body and remain outside the border stitch line for the next steps. Use sharp fabric scissors to navigate curves smoothly, cutting slowly to maintain the shape. Check that everything is aligned properly before moving on to finish your adorable gnome. Use your regular sewing machine now for the assembly. Start by placing your backing fabric wrong side up on your work surface. Then take the gnome you've just created and position it right side up on top of the backing fabric, ensuring the wrong sides are together. Pin the two layers securely to hold them in place. Next, trim the backing fabric so that it matches the size of the front of your gnome precisely. Now, place the backing fabric and the gnome right sides together and pin them again. Stitch just inside the outer borderline already on the gnome, ensuring this stitching will not be visible on the right side once finished. Be sure to leave a 3-inch, 8cm opening in the seam at the bottom for turning. Optional step. If you want to box the bottom of your gnome, start by flattening the center at the bottom. Use clips or pins to secure it in place. With a ruler and pencil, mark 1-inch, 2.5cm line perpendicular to the border stitch on the flattened corner. Stitch along this line, keeping the seam open as you sew it over to create the box corners. Once stitched, trim 1/4 inch, 6mm from the seam line. Carefully pull the gnome through the opening at the bottom. Use your chopstick or your trusty that ping thing to help push out the corners for a neat finish. Clip the curves by making small, evenly spaced snips into the seam allowance. Be cautious not to cut into the stitching line. Once clipped, turn the body right side out, gently pushing out the curves with a pointy turning tool. Finally, press the gnome to remove any creases, then stuff it to your desired firmness. Hand stitch or glue the opening closed. Then your Naughty Gnome is complete. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end of this tutorial. We truly appreciate your support at Sweepy, and we hope you love our latest Kiss design. Before you go, I have one small favor to ask. Please like and subscribe and head over to our website swpea.com to check out all the other amazing new releases we have waiting just for you. Goodbye for now.